Erin and Anjali, welcome to the Lessons of a Lashpreneur show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for
Thanks.
having us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
So tell me a little bit about Lashbee Pro, kind of where you guys are at now before we get into kind of how you guys sold a salon and then pivoted to Lashbee Pro.
Sure, I can start and then pass to you, Erin. So Lashbee Pro is a online e-commerce business for lash professionals. So a bit of history there. We really became entranced with eyelash extensions 7 years ago. I had taken a trip to South Korea and I saw how popular it was there and just how high quality the materials were. When I came back to the US, I found it really hard to actually get my lashes done. There were very few people who were trained. The material was very thick and heavy with plastic. So I teamed up with Erin, who I was doing my MBA with at Wharton. And we thought, there's a huge potential to bring these really high quality lash extensions to be more prevalent in the US. So we learned lash extensions ourselves. We really looked to source the best materials and come up with the best tools and practices. So we sort of started off with three major things. So one was training. Second was the actual products that we wanted to sell. And then finally, we did also have our own salon location too. And all three of these really fed into one another because we could see, what people were hoping for with products. And we worked with engineers to develop them and manufacturers. As we were training, we were able to come up with new processes. And then by having a salon, we could see what it was like if you were a very advanced lash stylist, what you would need to. And then our stylists were able to test our products. And again, it would just sort of all come full circle. So LashBeePro.com is our main focus, where we are selling these supplies as well as we have online training options too.
Yeah. Anything to add, Erin?
I would say, no, not really. Everything kind of went hand in hand. For a little bit of background, we are based in Philadelphia, and at the time that we started Lashbee, like Anjali is saying, there's just nothing available. Despite being very close to New York City, Philadelphia is a little bit behind the times on some of the beauty trends. I think that's changed a lot in the last 5 years. I've seen them really start picking up, so that's really cool. But at that time, there was a lot of room for improvement. So that I think we started at a very fun time.
So tell me about the journey. Did you guys start the salon with the intention that you were going to sell that branch of the company, or was it more of like that eventually became an idea that either an opportunity, or kind of walk me through how selling the business kind of came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So no, to answer your first question, we did not start it with the intention of necessarily selling it. We started it with the intention to grow, but we didn't know necessarily what form that would take. It could have been in the form of more salons, or ultimately we landed on launching our product line instead and focusing on training. So our first goal was really to understand the business inside and out. How do you run a successful lash salon and grow it and try to maximize your profitability within that before actually taking any other steps? And so as we were doing that in our first couple of years, we quickly realized we were struggling a lot with product. And so that was actually how we started to dive into our own production. And we went back to Korea, Anjali and I did, and met with just a ton of different manufacturers. And that was what really started off or kicked off our love for the product side. And then things kind of grew from there. So they kind of were working in tandem. The salon was growing. We were open 7 days a week. At our fullest capacity, we had 11 stylists. We were very busy, and then we were simultaneously growing this product side. Eventually, I think second part of your question was, how did we end up selling? Eventually, we realized that we were kind of stretching ourselves a bit thin. kind of the whole saying of jack of all trades, master of none. I think that applies here. When you have too many things going on, it's hard to do anything particularly well, and nobody really gets the attention or the love that they deserve. And so we realized, this isn't really fair to anybody. It's not fair to our team. It's not fair to the potential that both businesses have. And it's not fair to me and Anjali, who were also just like barely sleeping or, like doing the things that you need to be a happy, healthy, functioning human being. So that was kind of where things we came to this realization. And that was what started off this process of, okay, we need to figure out how to make this work longer term for us.
Really, the passion fell into kind of more the product line, and that's where you really wanted to see the growth and the energy put into it so that it could have that potential. And I agree. I think in a lot of ways, people think, I want to do all the things I want to have. I think what people want is a lot of, I want to have the salon and the education and the product. I'm just going to do it all. But in reality, you kind of cripple all three aspects of the business rather than getting one to completion or selling it like you guys did and having funds to be able to invest in other areas, because product lines are not cheap. None of those aspects of businesses are cheap. And so in a lot of ways, it's hard to troubleshoot so many problems. And I don't know if you guys ran into that, but each revenue stream has its own challenges to be able to grow and scale it. And when you're spread across, in your case, 3 different ones, like it's almost decision fatigue. You're just like, I can't solve another problem. So what are some of the good and the bad of getting your business ready to sell?
I would say it is a huge project. It is like having a fourth business, if you will. So we spent a lot of time being able to make sure that we had all of the right processes documented in a very clear way for a new owner. We had very clean financials, which was challenging because we were, really feeding into one another. So how do you calculate what it's like to run a salon without also having access to all these supplies from Lashbee Pro? So it was very much something that was strategic and took a lot of time. So yeah, I would say definitely the great part about it is that we got to do a lot of reflection. We were able to innovate quite a lot when we looked back at processes that we had started and come up with great suggestions for the potential new owners. The challenging part was probably just time. It took a lot to go through the financials and even decide who we thought would be the right owners to take over the salon, which we cared so much about, having these employees that we've worked with for years.
I think it's going to be interesting because in a lot of ways, when I hear of solo lash artists wanting to sell their business because they're either done with it or they just don't want to do it anymore, but they're like, oh, look, I have all these clients and it generates $50K a year and I'm just going to sell it to the next lash artist. From your experience, what assets of the business do have value and which ones are really, you would think they have value, but they don't? Because I know like sometimes team members, you think, oh, the team is what's valuable, but team members come and go, clients come and go. So from the eyes of an investor, is that of value or not?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we could jump into a lot of concepts around accounting. What's the value of a brand? What are the intangible assets? But I would say ultimately it depends on who the new owner is. If you are trying to sell to a lash artist, what they're going to value is going to be very different from someone who has a portfolio of small businesses who may just want to be able to step in to something, hire a manager, and be pretty absent. So I'd say for anyone considering this, you need to figure out what your actual strategy is. And don't be afraid to talk to people and understand, if you have a potential lash artist type person in mind, you don't need to tell them you're planning to sell, but ask them, how are you planning to expand your business? What do you value the most? Because I do think it is a little different for every potential buyer.
Yeah, and I think you guys had enough of, like you said, processes built out where the processes, no matter the people, were still going to be in place and successful because you had tested that with your team to ensure onboarding processes, hiring processes, training processes, that somebody who had no idea how to run a lash business could come in and read these processes and have replicable success that you guys had. Whereas when you're a solo lash artist looking to either buy or sell, how you apply lashes may be very different. The clients may not like that. And then they'll go and there goes any sort of revenue that was already there in the business.
Yeah, I think that that's a very good point. It is so personal in this business in general. So understanding that, this is maybe a weird, I wouldn't say it's necessarily always the case, but one thing that we also were able to build upon a lot was just reputation and that experience that when you come into Lashbee, things are a certain way. You're always going to get a certain level of service, and this is how we run things, and this, you can always expect it. Like, we had clients who have seen every single stylist because they always knew they were going to get this awesome experience. And I think that that really helped our case. So being able to like package that up so that our clients weren't just loyal to a single artist.
Yes.
They were loyal to the overall business as well. And so they would want to stay and continue. So I think when you're a solo artist, that is probably the hardest part, because people, you know, how do you translate that?
Yeah, I think that's because I do some one-on-one clients who are starting to build out team members, and it's a control thing that they have a hard time letting go of control and they want it done their way, but also developing the process, because what they do is in their head, but when they try to have somebody else do it without documenting it, it's hard to get somebody else to read your mind, right? Most people don't. So tell me about, because I don't think much of our audience is super familiar with the importance of processes in a business. Can you guys elaborate on how, like, even what processes are and why they're so essential to any business?
Yeah. So processes are anything that we consider something we're doing on a regular basis or even a semi-regular basis. It's literally every single step that you're going to do to take something through to completion. So at Lashbee, we would have processes for the second someone rang the buzzer to come into the building. So you ring the buzzer, they come up the stairs. What do you say to them? We included scripting in our process. Like how does that whole process work? And we thought down to the finest detail, because every little touch point that you're having with a customer or a client is making or breaking their experience. So by having these things thought out ahead of time, you can avoid problems. You know, you're not caught off guard when, you know, a client's late, for example. You know exactly how to handle it, and you handle it in a way that's still giving that client excellent service and helping your team. So yeah, processes are just so important, so you can eliminate all the thinking that needs to be done on your feet. You can just kind of get in the groove and everything runs more smoothly from person to person.
I would just think of Starbucks, right? You can go to a Starbucks in Paris, in South Africa, you know, anywhere in the US, and if you order a Frappuccino, it's going to taste the same. That's pretty extraordinary. So for anyone who's thinking through processes, even reading up on how multinational corporations do it is quite helpful. They spend a lot of time on training. They have very prescriptive approaches to everything. And they do that with the customer in mind. So it feels like a comforting experience. You know what to expect. And that's something that can be hard when you're a lash stylist, because you know, how many drops of adhesive are you using in a day? That sort of thing you don't normally think about. A lot of it is intuition. So I'd say the more you can just pause in the moment and say, oh, this is what I do, or this is my immediate response to a Yelp review. Let me copy and paste that and create a repository so it's easy for someone else. There's a million little things that go on in your role as a business owner that you can write down and make easy for someone else.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you, because that's exactly where I was going. It's like Starbucks, it's the same for the first go. So you're speaking my love language. Yeah, I think if you want to just be a solo lash artist and you just want to do your thing, you don't ever want to either sell your business or grow your business, then sure, do whatever feels good in the moment. If that works for you, great. But your business, whether you're aware of the processes or not, has processes. There's a way that you market your business. There is a way that you sell retail to a client. There's a way that you apply that has steps to it. There's a way that you pre-book people out, or they book online booking, or you take payment. Like, all of those aspects of your business have steps to them. And if you ever want to scale your business, which means that you're stop trading time for money because you want to get team members in there who can start to do the services for you, you're basically starting to outsource the service aspect of what you do so that you as the business owner can step into the marketing or the sales or the operations. So if you guys had to say like the first processes that are probably the most important to get documented for somebody who's curious or interested in growing their team or selling their business, what would you say is like the first one or the easiest one to start working out your step-by-steps?
I'd say your standard lash service process. So if you are a solo lash artist in particular, that's going to include greeting your client, welcoming them to your space and, offering them something to drink or whatever, and conducting that consultation. What are you talking about in the consultation? Where do you sit? How do you do it? What tools do you need? And then how do you go from that into your actual process of applying lashes? But from end to end. So they walk in, you consult, you do the service, and then you go out through aftercare and you check them out. That's what I would say would be number one, because that is the foundation of your business. If you aren't performing services, you're not making money. So I'd start there.
Yeah, I think COVID-19 also forced a lot of businesses to think through protocols. So a lot of you may have, talked to your team and said, okay, you have to sanitize this many times. You have to, immediately spray everything down. So maybe even taking that as the foundation and working backwards and adding the other little things you do can be a really good just initial start. Because if your team is already used to a piece of it, then it's just a matter of kind of adding things like the language used in a consultation.
Yeah, and I love looking at it. This is how my business coach used to talk about the business is I'm building a machine and the machine makes money. I don't require my business to make money. I require the machine. So at any point when you're seeing, and to me, this helps take some of the emotion out of the ups and downs of entrepreneurship is what in the machine is not working. Let me focus solely on that and get that working. Then we can look at the machine as a whole. Is it working? Is it not working? Rather than I can't do this. Oh my God, everything's falling apart. It's just start to look at, do I have enough leads coming into my business to convert to a certain amount of clients that I need? Do I have enough sales coming from each client to meet my goals? Do I have enough pre-booking to make sure that there's consistency in my business? So these processes really help to build the machine. And when there's something's not getting the result that the process is supposed to create, then you go back to the process and review it. And I even look at it as, bad reviews are more or less just a reflection of your processes. Something in a process was not great for the client. So we can either take that feedback and go look at our processes, or we can chalk it up to a crazy client that wasn't the right fit for our business. Either way, it's great feedback. It's not like a personal thing like, oh my God, all up in arms. And this is such a bad PR thing going on. It's just a feedback on a process.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's funny you say that. That was always one of our really big things that we felt strongly about is looking at feedback like that and reflecting, because it sucks. It sucks when someone says something that you don't want to hear, but there's usually something valuable that can come from it, just like you're saying. So if you can take action on that, and also respond in a way that other people can see that you are very professional, and a lot of times it actually convinces people that, hey, you're actually the person I want to go see. Look at how they handled that.
100%.
It doesn't have to be the worst thing.
Yeah, never respond with when you're in that like threatened state where you feel like the person's going to take your business down. That's not going to work. We always teach that when you respond to reviews, it's for other people reading it. It's not really about the person that's reviewing it. The person who's reviewing it, either you're going to give them a refund or you're just going to chalk it up as like an unhappy customer. There's generally not, when they're that mad that they go leave a bad review, sometimes you can fix it, but more or less it's for other people wanting to read the bad review. They're looking at the car accident and what's going to happen. Like they can't help but read it. But when you respond in a way that doesn't make you high maintenance or emotional or unstable, it builds trust. So it's kind of this flipped perspective of bad reviews can actually build more brand trust based on your response.
100%.
All right. So let's talk about kind of being intentional about wanting to sell your business, since that really is something that you guys did really well. Once you decided that letting go of the business and selling it was the best for growing the product line, how did you go about finding the right owners? How did the sale process go? Can you kind of let me in on how that all fell into place?
We worked backwards from our lease essentially. So we had a year remaining on our lease. We knew the date by which we would need to, renegotiate or re-sign for the next few years. So worked backwards and gave ourselves a few months to actually see if we could find the ideal buyer. And I can explain what that means a bit more. But we wanted to give some wiggle room where it was us reaching out to who we thought would be strong. And should that not work out, we could then post on small business sale sites. We could, really like work with a broker, just expand how we were approaching it. We were fortunate that we did have success with that first wave. So we specifically wanted somebody with lash experience, owning multiple lash salons, who was committed to the Philadelphia area. So these were like very clear criteria. And then the added piece that was most important to us was that they had to have lash integrity. So their lash salons had to be known for being very hygienic, for using appropriate lengths, weights.
It's like
Someone who would just
or something.
yeah, yeah, right, yeah. It had to be someone who would stay true to the Lashbee philosophy. So we looked at that, and then also wanted to find people who are known for being great employees. So it took a lot of research. We did look a lot on Yelp. We looked at places with multiple locations that were in nearby cities. So New York City, Philadelphia, of course, Baltimore, DC. And then people who were kind of more in the suburbs as well, who may appreciate a urban city location. So we had a short list. We had a long list that turned into a short list after doing more research, talking to people in our network. And then we had conversations with about 5 different places. And it was really clear that there were about 3 that seemed they would be a good fit. And that's when we really began to jump into the process of having them sign a non-disclosure, getting the information on our financials, some high-level information on our processes and what our plans would be, and then went into negotiations with them as well. And then, of course, settled on who we thought was the best fit for the business.
Oh, any takeaways you want to share with anybody listening that you think would be really valuable for them to understand selling their business or growing and scaling their business in a way that builds that machine that we talked about?
I already said it, but I'll say it again. Having clean financials. I notice a lot of people in the beauty industry, there's a bit of a thrill that might come from getting cash or paying people in cash, not reporting tips, that sort of a thing. But it is of utmost importance, if you do ever plan to sell, that everything is documentable. And so I would do it right from the beginning and not try and do it right before you're planning to sell.
Yeah, you want at least a couple years of great data to be able to show trends and how things are going and seasonality to potential buyers. I would also, I guess I would add to that as well. Really, it's not like you make a sale and then you're done, right? I would plan accordingly for some transition period because there are a lot of people involved in a business. Even if you work for yourself and you don't have employees, you still have a lot of clients and people that you do work with, and whoever's taking on the business probably has, their own team. So really plan to spend some time going through all of the things that makes your business and gives it the success, because it's not like, okay, it's yours, I'm done. You really want to make sure that you can hand it off and feel really good about it, that they can take it and run with it. So plan accordingly to spend that time.
Awesome. Well, from me, I owe you guys a huge debt of gratitude. You reaching out to me, especially when I was in a really low spot, was a little bit of a life raft for me of just saying, there's potential and opportunity here. And even through the process of me getting everything organized really showed me what the possibility was for the Lashpreneur Society and for the Lashpreneur. It opened my eyes to everything I had created when I felt like nothing was working at that time. And so I don't know that I expressed that to you guys, because I know our conversations kind of, once I decided it wasn't a good time for me to sell, like it really helped clarify for me the value of what I created and what it meant to the industry. And it kind of lit a new fire under me. So for me personally, thank you ladies so much for even just recognizing that there's value in the business education and training in this industry. And I am happy to support you. And I'm a huge fan of you guys for what you've created. And I'm so excited to watch you grow as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, where can we find you guys online? Where can people learn more about you and your trainings and your products?
Well, first off, we have the most respect for you and everything you've built. So I'm glad that in even a small way we could help you see that too. We're just blown away by your own entrepreneurial skills and your care and how you teach that to others. Yeah. Erin, were you about to say something?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that's really, I'm so happy to hear that. That's exciting.
We're having a little love fest here on the podcast.
Yeah.
All right, we know the website, Lashbee Pro. Where else can they find you?
We are on Instagram, also at Lashbee Pro. And then we're literally moving warehouses this weekend. So we're in Philadelphia, expanding to a bigger, newer space. So that's exciting. We're hoping to be able to welcome people there and conduct trainings in person again, starting later this fall. So that'll be great. And then more immediately, you can find us at LashCon in November.
Awesome. What are your top 2 selling products that you think every lash artist should try?
Oh gosh. I would say our lash shampoo, it's the Honeydew lash shampoo, is by far one of our top sellers. It's just super gentle and great for both, you know, in studio use and at home care. Anjali, what would you add for the second one?
I'd say, oh, this is hard, but we do have a retention queen product that helps boost retention, where we get truly rave reviews. But there's so many more. You know, we have.
We'll link up those 2 specific ones, but it'll get them to the website and they can kind of explore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd say go on the website, explore. You can sign up for email. You'll get kind of that welcome pop-up. And that's the best way to kind of just learn more about the brand and our vision. You know, we feature a lot of different products, and you know, we have some great, like, exciting surprises coming up. So I'd say definitely following us on Instagram and signing up for email is the best way to go.
Awesome. Well, we will link all of that up in the show notes. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. It's inspirational, and I'm excited to watch the product line and the trainings grow.
Thank you. We're excited for you as well. Thanks for having us.
Of course, of course. All right. Until next time, guys, have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.